Conscious Creative from MuseWorks Audio. The Conscious Creative is a podcast featuring interviews with artists who are doing transformational work in their craft and in their communities. Join us as we discuss different artistic philosophies, give you brand new tools to bring back to your creative spaces, and build a community of artists dedicated to deepening their relationship with their craft. Geneva Jacobs is a visual artist who lives, creates, and dreams on Pender Island. Geneva seeks to create magical visionary art that exposes our multidimensional existence. Through shamanic drum journeying, she opens the flow of information. Then comes trust, water, and color. Her art is a journey of surrender to divine imagination that leads to the space betwixt and between, the space where all possibility exists. She believes that art carries medicine, metaphors, frequencies, and symbols that speak directly to our heart's soul essence. To honor this understanding, she incorporates shamanic journeying, meditation, and focused intention into each of her art pieces. To see more of Geneva's art, follow her at Geneva_Jacobs on Instagram. Thanks for being here with me today, Geneva.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm pretty delighted that you're interested.
I think, what you're doing is really unique and really beautiful, and I just know, essentially from what my partner Asha has spoken about, and what I read online, and also having your calendars up in our kitchen. But I'm excited to dive in and get a few more details and really understand what your philosophy is behind creativity. My first question that I wanted to ask is where you began with art and creativity. I mean, you can start from day one if you would like, or whatever comes to you with that question.
For sure. Yeah, that could be a really long answer, right? I mean, I remember in preschool doing art and having my dad come and just doing finger painting rainbows with him. And from there, just being quite taken with art and creating things, just seeing something unfold in front of me that came, from my fingertips.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey. And I think from the beginning for me, I've always had a fascination with art and trying to create something unique. Honestly, always wanted to be unique.
From when you were in preschool, you felt something special when you were doing even finger painting?
Yeah, a lot of my memories, I think, are. I loved imaginative play, so I was always making up games. But I really do remember doing art. Watching paint drip, seeing the colors mix. I found it fascinating. Yeah, I was always, whenever the easel was set up, I went over to it.
That seems like such a strong connection just from day one. How did it evolve throughout, from the beginning and then a little further into adolescence?
Yeah, so I think it kind of ebbs and flows for me a little bit. So I think, I guess any artist has the struggle to create, and then, you pull away a little bit and then you get drawn back in when the inspiration strikes. So I think it's been like that through my life too. I remember getting involved in art club in high school and then having things really get ignited again there. And then after school finished, kind of trying to figure out how to live my life, being kind of taken away from it and going in different directions, and then finding it again later, and then going back to art school. And so it's been a bit of an ebb and flow to find like its place in my life, and I guess my own voice in it. But it's something that's always drawn me back, and I've always liked to explore through it. So there was a lot of different things that I tried, different materials, until I got into it was almost like a process that I got so that I could get my own voice going. It's like I found this structure I could work within that didn't become boring to me, and that's what it looks like now, basically.
Is that how you began this specific practice of the shamanic journeying? Like, you wanted to just keep exploring? And
Yeah, so I had gone to art school, and for a couple years, I never finished my degree, but I went for a couple years, and I was really good at getting good grades in art school because I knew how to kind of people please, it seemed like to me. And I found that slightly disappointing, that I wasn't necessarily developing what I wanted to, but I was saying, yeah, I can do that. Here you go. And that's what this looks like. And I can get the good grade if I do what you want, right? And so I mean, I learned a lot, and but then things changed in my life, and I ended up living on a smaller island, and I ended up in a job where I had a lot of time and space for creativity. And of course, I started to really spend more time with it and figure out what it was I wanted to delve into. And art had always been really about my own discovering myself, looking for insight about myself, processing things about myself, and it never felt right to share it too much because it was just so personal. And I love delving deep into myself. I think a lot of artists do. It's a kind of a self-discovery, a self-expression thing, and just sort of exposing yourself a bit. But I just wanted it to be a little more for other people too. And as I was working on my art, I was also discovering more about the world and finding that Mother Earth was this big, huge teacher for me, and started to get more involved in traditional arts, I guess. And ended up finding a woman eventually through another woman, but I ended up finding a woman who was teaching Irish traditional.
Oh, wow.
So I started working with her and delving deep into my inner work and learning about different things about energy work. She taught us how to journey using the drum, and then it clicked. It was like an intersection. It was like my art and the shamanic work that I was doing came together.
Yeah.
And then it really, for me, it catalyzed the whole process. I was like, now I can work with my art. I've found my voice in it. And I can use journeying to make it not just about me. So I can use journeying to open it up to being about other people, being about other ideas, sort of attuning more to the outside world, the world outside of myself. So when that hit, I felt more inclined to share my art and to, like there was a purpose to it, and that like it was kind of born, for the world now. To go out on its own in a way, instead of just being a personal, private thing.
Yeah. So it's almost, and this is sort of something that I'm dealing with myself, but I feel like it's almost something that you feel is of service.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely feel that. It's of service to the beyond, meaning beyond myself, because it's hard not to stay in our own worlds, And yeah, I guess you have to kind of get out of your own world to really be of service. So I found that way out.
Yeah. You mentioned finding your voice. Was that a moment for you where you really realized that you had found your voice, or has that been a slower process where you continue to hone it and get closer and closer to something?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. I think it took many years and trying so many different things before I felt like I had a material that that I could work with. So I needed to find my material, my medium, the material that was working with me, and then from there, you know, play became more involved with it. When I started with this color palette. Once I found that I liked working with inks, bright colors, and I've always had this fascination with abstraction. So once I found my color palette and an easy way to get an intriguing groundwork down in an abstract way, I started to play more. And I've always loved efficiency in mark making and making one line delineate as much as possible, really. I mean, I sometimes get away with that, but away from that. But I love it when one line can be so articulate. So I started playing with those things, and as I was playing with those things, my eyes started to develop even more for seeing things in the abstract groundworks that I was creating. And so I think it does evolve. So it's like I found this place to play that was always intriguing to me, and then it's gone from just simple mark making and simple shapes coming together to create a little bit of a story to more intricate things that I'm seeing, and then I'm trying to pull those out so everybody can see them. It's like watching clouds, right? And I actually spent about 8 years watching clouds, so it probably helped me develop my eye for seeing things. But now I can sit on the toilet and look at a towel in front of me and see so many things in it, and so I feel like, yeah, it's really developed because with the practice, you know. But finding that structure to play in was what I needed to continue.
It's so cool to hear. I don't really, I'm not a very visual person really at all. And it's just so interesting to hear someone who interprets reality in such a different way than me. For me, it's more sounds.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to circle back to actually is you mentioned working in Irish ancestral work.
Yeah, there's a lot of ancestral work involved in it. So it's my teacher's name is Amantha Murphy, and she teaches what she calls the way of Shaban, and Shaban means yes woman. And basically, it's a female-based tradition, but it's all of, like, the Irish tradition goes back a long way. And there's origin stories from Ireland that are still carried in the stories. There's so much story that still gets passed on in Ireland. There's this deep connection to the land and energy work and all kinds of things. So she teaches us about the goddesses of that land, the wheel of the year, and there's a lot of crossover that can be seen with other Indigenous cultures, but basically it's the Irish Indigenous type of worldview. Yeah, I've been involved in that, I think since 2013 now, and done work on the land and just a lot of inner work to be clear myself on who I am and how to move forward with more grace in the world. And then a lot of that work, you really have to surrender to trust, which helps me do my art too, because I never really have a plan of what I'm going to do. And so when I journey for someone, and my intention is fairly broad, actually, and then as I'm doing the work, it gets a little more dialed in. But if I don't have that trust, then I can get that's when my ego or my vision might get mixed up in it. So if I'm seeing something, I can't necessarily second think it. I need to just do it. Like, thinking needs to kind of move out of the way, and I just need to be surrendered into trusting what I'm seeing and putting it down. And so I think that one of the main things that I've been learning with Amantha is that ability to just trust what you know, trust what you see, and if you're tuning in and you're in that space of grace, then that's where deep connection, magic, and all kinds of things come from.
Is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing that you do to help surrender? Any specific practices to help surrender and let go of that expectation that sometimes we cling to when we're creating?
Well, I think the initial journey keeps me true to the artwork I'm doing. So if I'm doing, not every single piece of art that I do is journey based. Sometimes I'm practicing with the materials. But when I'm working on something that's for someone else, even if it's not journey based, like I do these mantras or different things with words that I'm using, and I don't always journey for those because the intention is usually pretty strong about who it's for, why it's for them, and what the words are. So I just try and stay focused on those people. But usually with the journey art, once I've done the journey, that sets up the base. That completely sets up the base for the whole process of the art. So then so I've done the journey, it's at the same time as the people I'm doing it for are in a meditative state and open to me basically seeing them, And then so after that, I've written down my notes for what I've received in the journey. It's usually the shape it has to be, the colors it has to be. I usually have some imagery that pops up, maybe some words and different knowings. And then when I'm working on the art, so then I will immediately put down the groundwork after the journey. So that is carried in the water. It's all still really fresh. And then that has to dry. So then I usually go back to the artwork and I'm basically scrying at that point. So if I've seen imagery in the journey, I'm looking for those things, but I'm also I always allow space for the art to be carrying what has been in the journey, and then I'm scrying basically, which is a way of people used to do divination using water, and they would look into the water and see imagery that they would use to divine for people, right? So basically, when I'm using the watercolor groundwork, that's me setting up the what I'm going to scry into, right? So then I always know when I come back to it, this is this is based on this journey. This is for this person. And that's where the meditation and the intention come in. So I think that keeps me very focused. You know, I'm sorry, I can't quite remember what your question was, but that's what keeps sort of me contained in what I'm supposed to be doing rather than what I might like want to add in or have going on in my own life that might be distracting or things like that.
Yeah, I can see that sort of drawing these boundaries for yourself. Yeah, I think that answers my question perfectly. And I feel like you kind of answered this already, but when I look at your art, you're using almost exclusively symbolism from the natural world, and it could be entirely exclusively. How have you learned to interpret these symbols?
Yeah, I do use almost exclusively natural kind of symbology and flowers, animals, people. There's a bit of fantasy in it too. Dragon, fairy. Yeah, you're right. Occasionally there has been some kind of geometric type of forms, but again, that's nature. I use that because I feel like we all have a certain level of attunement to the natural world. And we all have interpretations of what different animals represent to us, feel to us, the kind of energy they carry. And so we don't necessarily need to be expert on that animal or that plant, but we get a certain feeling from it because we're part of this world. We're natural beings too, right? So we are always interpreting the world around us. And so I think those symbols are just the most useful and the most universal. And I think we all know how to relate there somehow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really like that that view. And yeah, I would definitely say that I agree with it. One maybe a little bit more lighthearted question is I saw these the divination of the hair on the shower wall.
Oh God. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Okay, so this is my dorky side. So actually, I was saying earlier how I think a lot of people could develop this. I don't think this is very special, actually, but when you look at things and you start seeing imagery. So until very recently, like a couple days ago, I cut my hair quite short, but I've had long hair for quite a long time, and you never want your hair to go down the drain because especially if you have a pump in a septic field, it can cause a lot of problems. So I would catch my hair as I was washing it, and I would basically throw it on the wall so that I could clean it up after my shower. Some people think that's gross. But as it would be on the shower wall, I started using it as like an oracle for my day.
Oh,
so I would
wow.
look at the hair and I'd be getting ready for my day and I'd see something in the hair and I'd think, oh, okay, a frog. Well, that to me symbolizes, some fertility, some juiciness, I don't know, some fun, hopping around. Okay, I'm going to look out for those things today and see how this might apply. And so I've done that. I did that for so long, just for my own enjoyment. And then when lockdown happened in March, I had a little bit more time on my hands, and I thought maybe there would be things in there for other people. I thought it would be hilarious, sort of lighthearted. And I found a little program where I could record the drawing I did to show people what I was seeing. And then I would write out a little bit of an oracle about it. And I just thought it was hilarious. And then the name Hairball on a Shower Wall. Did you ever see Tommy Boy, that movie Tommy Boy?
I didn't know. No.
Chris Farley is in it, and David Spade, I believe.
No,
Anyway.
I don't think so.
No? Okay, so if I was going to continue with it, I would have had a theme song related to that movie, which is not going to be funny if you don't know what I'm talking about. But Chris Farley was a big guy, and he was trying to make his friend laugh in the movie. He put on his coat, and he was a little guy. And so he put on his coat, and his arms are sticking up ridiculously. And then he started singing, "Fat guy in a little coat." And so I thought that was pretty funny. And I thought, hairball on a shower wall would be just as funny as my oracles.
Oh, man.
With my hair would be.
You should, so you don't have that recorded for the...
No.
Oh, man. I'll have to...
I actually didn't figure out how to do the art and record the drawing and have audio with it. So I didn't get that far in the technological side.
Well, I'm going to have a recording of you doing that now, so I'll see if I can send it to you.
Love it. Okay, yeah. If I can get a little clip going, that would be hilarious.
Actually, just for the record, I just want to say both me and my partner have long hair, and we both put our hair on the shower wall as well. So
do you oracle?
We don't oracle, although maybe I'll see if Asha is into it.
Give it a try. It's really fun, actually.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. So the last question that I wanted to leave us off with is what impact do you want to leave the world with your creations?
Well, I really feel that self-empowerment is important. So anytime I'm doing a piece of art for people, or a person, I want that to be an empowering energy for them when they're looking at it. I want that feeling to come through for them. And I also feel that imagination is very important. And if we don't have imagination, we won't solve the problems that we need to solve. The challenges that come up, if we don't have imagination and new ways of thinking and seeing the world, then we're going to be pretty stuck. So developing imagination, opening that kind of space for people and is important to me. And also delight. I mean, I love rainbows. I think all of my elementary school drawings had rainbows in them. And I think that beauty is important. So the bright colors and sort of full spectrum that I like to use. I just want the beauty to be there in that. And I want people to delight in some beauty. So I hope they're uplifting. I hope they induce a bit of imagination, and I hope they feel empowering to at least some people.
That's amazing. Those are all things that I'm really, really working with at the moment as well. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview, Geneva. And
thanks again, Mike. This was really great.
For your thoughtful answers, and Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. Where is it best for people to reach you at if they want to hire you for your services?
Oh, thanks so much. I have a website. It's Geneva Jacobs Art. And I'm on Instagram. I believe you said at the beginning, but it's Geneva_Jacobs on Instagram. And I'm also on Facebook. Yeah. So, yeah, reach out if anyone's interested. I'd love to share more and see what's possible.
Yeah, yeah. I hope more people work with you, because I think what you're doing is really cool. And obviously, from this conversation, I think you can just tell how much effort and thought you put into your work.
Thank you, Mike. That's filling my heart right up and so encouraging. And I really, really appreciate your interest. Thank you.
No, it's really, really been a pleasure to have this conversation, Geneva.
Yeah, and hopefully one day we'll meet in person.
Yeah, I'm sure one day I'll be on Pender, one day soon.
All right, well, yeah, I guess we'll be in touch again soon. And thanks so much, Mike. This has been really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Geneva. Thank you for joining us for this conversation with Geneva Jacobs. I just wanted to run over a few things that I really took away from the conversation that I'm going to be considering and working with when I step into my creative spot, whether it's, working for other people, mixing and mastering, or even if I'm just working for myself. One thing that she said that's been coming up a lot for me lately is using art as service, and I think that that's something that we overlook, maybe because we undervalue our art, but I think you need to look at your art as something that can uplift people and that can be of real value to people, so that when you sit down and write or paint, whatever you're doing, know that you can be spreading and creating joy with your craft. That's something so huge to me, and I think it's something that's so important. As well, removing egos and expectations. I think, something that sort of occurred to me is when I sit down to create something and I know what emotion I'm trying to create, sometimes I will expect it to look too much or to sound too much like something that I already have planned, as opposed to just letting it flow. Because if you feel a certain way, it's gonna come out of you, I think, but it's not necessarily gonna look how you expected it to. And that's something that I'm considering and thinking about after this conversation with Geneva. And the third and final thing something that I definitely don't do as much as I would like to, is exercise my imagination. And it's something that I'm working on, and daily I do some imagination exercises, try and think a little bit outside the box. I know for myself, and probably for a lot of people, you get so focused on the goal or the task at hand, and over time you can get tunnel vision. And I think that if you take a little bit of time to take a bit of a breather from your workspace or from your creative space, go sit under a tree, don't have your phone with you, and just sort of exercise imagination and just see what comes up. I think that some powerful creative things can come up when we allow our mind to imagine. So I hope that this episode has been of value to you. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think what she's doing is so cool, and I hope you check out her work on Instagram as well. If you want to continue to follow me, check out Museworks Audio on YouTube. I'm going to be posting weekly vlogs there discussing what I'm doing in my own creative space and things that I'm thinking about, as well as subscribe, rate, and give feedback on this, give reviews on this podcast, and look forward to having you again next week. It's Mike Irish from MuseWorks Audio signing off, and thank you for listening.